All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Anne Marie Hatfield. I'm one of the partners in College Inroads. And we are doing the monthly client webinar on letters of recommendations, sending transcripts, sending SAT scores, etc. So I'm excited that you're here with us today, and thanks for being here. I am going to share my screen, and we are going to get started on this PowerPoint. Let me pull this up. Perfect. I cannot see you guys when I am in PowerPoint mode, so I might actually do this. Let me see if I can make sure that you guys are down here so I can still see faces just in case. Make this big. Okay, welcome everybody. So everything that we do has an agenda. So we're going to talk today about the application outline. We're going to talk about letters of recommendation, talk about transcripts, SAT, ACT scores, where to find deadlines, and your questions. So if you have any burning questions, you're more than welcome to either come off and mute, since we are a smaller group today that facilitates itself for that. So feel free to come off and mute if you would like to do that, or you can type the questions in the chat. At the bottom of your at the bottom of your Google Meet screen on the right-hand side, you should see a little thought bubble, and that is where you can enter and ask your questions if you have any. All right. So let's talk about the application timeline. So the college search is what starts this whole thing. You have to go through the college search first to figure out the schools that you want to apply to. So that's the most important thing, is the college search timeline in terms of that. The college search usually will happen the second semester of junior year. Or I'm sorry, first semester of junior year is when the college search usually starts. Okay. Essay brainstorming will usually start second semester of junior year, and that will go all the way through when the college applications are submitted. And so essay brainstorming starts usually second semester of junior year, and that again will go all the way up through when the applications are completed and submitted. Letters of recommendation are a important piece of the application package. We encourage our students to ask the teachers that they want to write the letters of recommendation. We encourage them to ask May of junior year. We don't want to be last minute Larry to this particular party. We don't want to ask on Halloween for a letter of recommendation that is due on November 1. So let's give them the summer. The only thing the kids have to say to the person that they're asking for the letter of recommendation is, I'm applying for college. I really respect you. Would you be willing to write me a good letter of recommendation? So they ask that question in May. They get the commitment from the teacher, counselor, coach, etc. And then you give the teacher, counselor, coach, etc. the summer to write them. Again, we don't want to be last minute to this particular party. So the applications are completed. We start working on college applications in June. We are able to start submitting college applications in August. The August between junior and senior year, the August that senior year starts, and those application completion go all the way through the deadlines. Somebody else is trying to join, so let me get a second while I'm able to figure out how to do that. 1 second, please. Shoot, I think I have to do this. I'm so sorry. That's why it's important for me to have this one open as well. I apologize.
You can make one of us a host and we can do that on your behalf while you are doing it, right?
That's a great idea. Thanks for that. Okay, perfect. Yeah, my business partner, Mike, we usually do these in conjunction with each other. So sorry about that, but thanks for your patience there. Okay, so applications are completed. We start working on them in June, and the students can start submitting August between junior and senior year, and then a lot of our kids are still submitting now, but most everybody will be done by November 1 for our seniors. High school and college transcripts also need to be sent. So we submit the application, then we attach the letters of recommendation. We send the high school transcripts, and we send the SAT, ACT scores if we are applying with test scores. And all of these things need to be submitted prior to the deadline of that college application. We'll talk about that here in just a second. The colleges will make their decisions starting from the time that the applications are submitted all the way up through, April of senior year, if you can believe that. There are some universities, we had a kid apply to six universities the first week of August. By the second week of August, he had 4 acceptances. And so even before his senior year started, he already knew that he was accepted to some universities. And then all the stress comes off because now we know we're going to college. So letters of recommendation, we start asking for them in May of the junior year. The high school and college transcripts are sent before the college application deadlines, as well as the SAT, ACT scores are sent before the college application deadlines as well. I just wanted to give you kind of a 30,000-foot overview of the application timeline. Okay, letters of recommendation. Let's talk a little bit about that. People to ask, if your students are applying on the Common App, the Common App is going to want a counselor letter of recommendation. And so the counselor is a person to ask for your letter of recommendation. Ideally 1 to 2 teachers, and ideally those 1 to 2 teachers, at least one of them should be the field in which the student is interested in studying. And so if they're interested in going to medical school, you're probably going to want a biology or a chemistry teacher. If it's engineering, it's the robotics sponsor, or one of the engineering classes they took, or physics or calculus BC, something like that. If you're business, it's a business class that you took, the DECA sponsor, something like that. And then a coach, a boss, a director, somebody who can speak to work ethic. What the university is looking for is impressions of the student from people with job titles that the universities respect. So counselor can be kind of overarching, right? The teachers can speak to academic prowess, and the coach, boss, director, etc., can speak to work ethic, right? Works well in a team, shows up on time, is a good collaborator, etc. Anymore, a lot of these letters of recommendation are going to be optional. But if you can get a teacher to say nice things about you, there's no reason not to submit a letter of recommendation. So I would encourage you to get them. And if you're able to get them, even if they're optional, to go ahead and submit them. The best time to ask is May of junior year. The second best time to ask is now. So if you haven't asked for letters of recommendation and you're a senior, then now is a good time to ask for those letters of recommendation. There are a lot of the high schools these days are requiring the kids to fill out a form and the parents to fill out a brag sheet. And so if you have a senior in high school and you're waiting on the counselor to write the letter of recommendation, they are probably waiting on you to submit a brag sheet to them so they have good material to put into that letter of recommendation. So I would definitely encourage you to check with your high school counselor, check with your high school's website, go to the high school's website and just type in the search bar letters of recommendation, and it'll take you to the page where it'll tell you if you have a form you have to fill out, and then a link to that form. How they get submitted depends on your high school. So if your high school is on Naviance, chances are you're going to have to assign the recommender through Naviance. If your high school is not on Naviance, chances are you are going to assign the recommender through the Common App. And if you have questions about that and you're a senior, ask your application specialist who can guide you through that. But if your high school is on Naviance, more than likely you're gonna assign the recommender through Naviance. Everybody else is gonna assign more than likely through the Common App. Again, a lot of universities don't require letters of recommendation any longer, but if you're applying to schools on Apply Texas, there's not a way for you to upload that letter of recommendation. You're going to have to wait and submit that upload the letter of recommendation through the web portal that each of the universities set up for you. Okay, so now let's talk about transcripts. Transcripts are required. A lot of times letters of recommendation are not required. Transcripts 100% are required. And so your student, as a senior in the month of August, so they are a rising senior, they finished their junior year, they're a rising senior August 1st, they are starting their senior year probably that same August. You're going to need to ask your high school counselor for an unofficial copy of your transcript. It is critical for all of our seniors to share with us an unofficial copy of the transcript, because a lot of universities are going to require the students to self-report their transcript. And the only way that we can help and assist them, the only way that their application specialist can help and assist them, is by having access to that unofficial transcript. Parents, your client relations specialist will reach out to you a multitude of times to remind you of that. So just be aware of that. We're going to want a copy of the unofficial transcript as of August 1st. The official transcript will need to be sent to almost every university on your list, unless the school requires the SRAR, which is also known now as the STARS. And UTNA or A&M is one of those. Texas Tech does not have that any longer. But A&M, UT Arlington, UT San Antonio. So if your students are applying to any of those schools, they're going to have to self-report their transcript through what's called the STARS. The University of California school system does not want an official transcript sent to their university. If they do want it, they will ask you for it. But prior to acceptance, they aren't going to want that. The official transcript is sent from the high school. It is not sent from us. So just be aware of that. If your high school is on Naviance, chances are you are going to request your transcripts be sent to all of your universities through Naviance. Almost every high school is going to use a system called Parchment. And to make the water even muddier, Lake Travis High School this year is on Naviance, but they will be requiring transcripts be sent through Parchment. So it's a little confusing, but all of our application specialists are familiar with that. And then if your school is not on Naviance and your school is not on Parchment, some high schools have a Google Doc that you fill out, and you tell them all of the universities that you want your transcript sent to. So if you have questions about that, I would encourage you strongly to reach out to your high school counselor just to make sure that you understand how those transcripts are to be sent. If you are taking students dual credit classes and you are accepting the credit from the college, because remember, dual credit class, you get high school credit and you get college credit. If you are accepting the college credit, which you don't have to accept if your grade wasn't as high as you wanted it to be, if you are accepting the credit, you have to send the transcript from the college that you took that dual credit class in. So if that's UT for UT on-ramps or ACC or HCC or Cal Berkeley or wherever, you're going to have that transcript sent. These transcripts have to be received. The official transcripts have to be received by the university by the deadline. And so if you're applying early action and you had an early action October 15th deadline for UT, UT needed to have received that transcript by October 15th. So just make sure, parents, that you are familiar with those deadlines. Just make sure, kids, that you're familiarizing yourself with the application outline so you can see those. And then also your application specialist is going to be hammering you about these as well. SAT, ACT scores, sometimes we self-report them through the Common App. A lot of time, the only way for them to be considered the official score is for them to be sent from the testing company. And that's through either ACT.org for the ACT or collegeboard.org for the SAT. These scores have to be received by the college deadline if you are applying with test scores. If you are applying test optional, you do not have to submit test scores. In fact, you don't submit test scores if you're applying test optional. Test optional, again, means that a particular university doesn't require test scores for acceptance, but a lot of times they're going to want test scores for scholarships. So if you want scholarships, aka free money to go to university, we're definitely going to want to take an SAT and submit those test scores for scholarships. Again, test optional means you don't have to submit the test score, but if it is a good test score in comparison to what that particular school is looking for, even if they're test optional, we probably want to submit our test scores. You might decide to send test scores to some schools and decide not to send test scores to other schools. So just know we can help you be strategic. If a particular school is test optional, and we can help you figure out whether or not you want to submit those test scores. But the SAT, ACT scores have to be submitted by that deadline. The transcripts have to be submitted by that deadline, by the school's deadline. The letters of recommendation have to be submitted if they are required by the school's deadline, or that application is not going to be considered complete. If they require letters of recommendation, they do require transcripts. And if they require SAT, ACT scores, if you're applying with test scores, all three of those things have to be sent and received by the university by the deadline. Okay, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time, now that we're talking a lot about deadlines, I want you to see where you can see those deadlines. On your College Inroads website, it's in the Colleges tab, which is highlighted over here in the purple. At the very top of the Colleges tab, if your student has indicated the ways in which they are applying in the application outline, then all of these deadlines, all of those colleges deadlines under my list of colleges, all of these deadlines will show up in chronological order. The students have to indicate under the application outline the way that they are applying in order for them to show those deadlines to show up here. And then you'll see all of these schools right here are listed in the student's order of preference. But all of the deadlines up here are in chronological order. Okay. And so the application outline as well, when you click on the application outline, the student selects the way that they are applying. You'll notice that date is going to self-populate over here. So the student knows that this particular school's got to receive every single one of these things by that deadline. On the application outline, you also indicate, the student also indicates when the application is submitted. They click this big orange or blue button, depending upon the color scheme of your website. We're doing a lot of that these days. As students are clicking submitted, that's the most fun part for us, to be honest with you. Now, the next step here is the students, once they submit, they kind of hit the ball over the net to the university, and then we wait for the university to make a decision. The university will say yes or no. You're either going to get a congratulations, you've been accepted, or we regret to inform you. You'll get communication from the university either way. And once you get that communication, again, in the application outline for that particular university, we want to indicate whether or not you've heard back from that university. Did you get accepted? Were you denied? Did they put you on the wait list? Are you a spring semester? Did you withdraw your application? You know, what is the status of that application? Will you be attending that school? Did you get any scholarships? Sometimes when the university says, congratulations, you've been accepted, and oh, by the way, here's your $20,000 renewable every year for 4 years, as long as you maintain a certain GPA. If you do get a scholarship, you want to report that, because we keep track of all of that. That's really, really important for us. And that's where you see it listed there. The application outline is probably one of the most impactful and maybe misunderstood sections of this particular website. I'm pretty hot on the application outline because it really does help keep us in check, keep everybody on the same page. So everybody knows exactly what's happening, when things are due, when things have been submitted, etc. Okay. Next steps for our seniors. We are in the process of submitting college applications right now. Once the application has been submitted, you submit the transcript. You do not have to wait until the application has been submitted to submit the transcript or the SAT scores or your letters of recommendation. You don't have to wait until the applications have been submitted to submit those items as well. So you're going to have your transcript sent. You're going to have your SAT, ACT score sent, and both of these things are done before the deadline. Please keep us informed of acceptances as they come in. Please make sure that scholarships are included in the application outline as well. For our seniors right now, I am knee deep in filing financial aid forms. If I have not spoken to you about financial aid forms and you would like me to file financial aid forms for you, and you are a senior, please make sure you reach out to me. I'll make sure I put my email address in the chat so you have easy access to me. And then the next big step in our process after we file after the kids have submitted their applications for admissions, after we have submitted financial aid forms, then the universities are going to send to you their offer, which is called a financial aid award analysis. And then we can help you with that in the spring when all of that happens. All right. I have talked a lot. Now I want to see if there's any questions. Who has questions? Please feel free to ask the questions.
Yeah, I'm interested to know more about the financial aid form that you were talking about.
Sure.
So, how we can go about that?
Is your student a senior?
No, she is still junior.
Okay. So we will be working on financial aid forms next year. So
Okay.
you have a year before you have to worry about that.
Okay.
Starting probably very beginning of August, I will start reaching out to juniors, rising seniors at that point. So you got a year. You get to wait a year.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions do you have for me? How else can I help or support? Yes, Scott R. Thank you for raising your hand.
You're welcome. So while we're on the topic of the FAFSA, I just scheduled an appointment with you. I know I'm behind on that, but it was the 31st of October. And right after I did it, I saw you said a lot of schools need it by 1 November.
Yes.
Should I adjust
will
that?
take a look at that for you, Mr. Scott R. I will take a look at that for you. Some of the deadlines, it depends on how your student applied, if it was early action, if it was regular decision, because there are different deadlines based on the way that the students submitted their admissions applications. But I can check into that for you. As long as I can get the data verification, a meeting formalized with you, and we can get all of the pieces that we need to file the financial aid forms on that date, we should be fine. I can I can push buttons on that day as long as I have all the information needed. Yeah, that's a good question. You're welcome. Thanks for scheduling. What other questions do you have? How else can I help or support you? And if you have any questions about any other pieces of our process, about anything having to do with college, it doesn't just have to be about the topic we discussed tonight. So if you have any other burning questions about college, please. Yes, Scott R. raised his hand again. I love it.
Since you just opened the floor to general things, so we're the seniors nearing the end of the applications. In fact, I think we just finished them all. So I'm feeling kind of like, I know there's a lot of other things, housing, honors college stuff, scholarships. I'm feeling like there's all kind of other things I need to be doing and thinking about that I'm not necessarily going to get help on. Can you give me some guidance on that?
Yeah, well, you can always get help on these things. So always feel free to reach out. If there's something about college that you have a question about, we're always here to help and support you. I'll have a whole separate webinar just on scholarships, but let me just say that the majority of the money that the student's going to get for college is going to come from the actual college itself. Here's your $20,000 renewable every year for 4 years, as long as you maintain a certain GPA. That comes from the actual university itself. That said, there are lots of other places to look for scholarships. Just by you being a client of ours, your student gets access to a scholarship search site called Imagine Scholarships that has more than 10,000 scholarships in it. The student creates a profile. The scholarship search site goes to look for scholarships that have those keywords in it. If the student has an application that has to be completed, we can help them with that. And if there's essays that need to be written, we can help them with that as well. So just know that you have some assistance there. And then for our seniors, right before Thanksgiving, I'll send out an email of places to look for local scholarships to the parents and the student right before Thanksgiving, to give the student time over the holidays to be able to look for scholarships through the Police Benevolent Foundation, the local Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, the Education Foundation, etc. In terms of honors colleges, I would encourage the student to search email for honors colleges. Some universities are going to have a separate application that needs to be completed, and their application specialist can certainly help them with that. Some universities, a handful, like University of North Texas, University of Arkansas, are kind of the two more popular ones our kids apply to, have a separate scholarship application. And so I always encourage the kids to go to their email and just search for type in the word scholarships and see what pops up because they might have an application they needed to complete that they didn't realize. The honors colleges, I think I mentioned that as well. They go into their email and they type in honors. And for any of the schools that they have indicated interest in the honors college, they'll get an application. If they did indicate interest in an honors college, that will also show up on the web portal that the university has set up for the student. So just know that we have you covered. If there's any questions that you have, even if you think that it's not part of the things that encompass our service, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that you're supported and that you have the information that you need. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Okay, thanks. That was a great answer. Two quick follow-ups. When you said most of the money is coming from the school, would you say that most of those schools just wrap that into the general application and evaluate that, or is it more likely that they have separate scholarship apps?
95% of the universities will use the admissions application as the scholarship application as well. But there's a handful that have separate applications. We just want to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Okay, got it. And then anything else that I didn't mention that I should be thinking about in this time frame?
I mean,
that like the housing thing, getting in.
Yeah, the housing. I mean, the thing about housing is that the housing is differs across the spectrum. If your student applied to the University of Texas, Austin, you can put forth a $50 housing deposit as soon as they apply. The majority, I'd say 95% of the universities are going to make you wait until the students have been accepted before you can put down a housing deposit. Some universities won't even allow you to put down the housing deposit. They will twist your arm and say you can't apply for housing until you have committed to coming to our university. Remember that your student has until May 1st to commit. And so even if Baylor's reaching out now saying, commit so you can apply for housing, you still have 7 months before they have to commit. So don't allow them to bully you into committing early just to get housing. But I'd say for the top 3 to 5 universities, I would put down the housing deposit as long as it is refundable. And as long as it doesn't have anything to say about enrollment. The enrollment deposit is going to commit your student to enroll at that university. And so we don't want to put down an enrollment deposit. You can put down a housing deposit. And again, those housing deposits are almost always going to be refundable if your student doesn't get into that university or they decide to go elsewhere.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. What other questions? I think, Mr. Seth, did you have your hand up first? What other questions can I answer?
Yes, I did had, but you already answered about the scholarships that I wanted to know about. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I did that. That's awesome. I love it when we're able to learn from each other, from the questions that everybody else has, because chances are if you have a question, somebody else is going to have the same question. What other questions do you have for me? How else can I help or support you today?
Hi, I was wondering if there's a certain format that their letters of recommendation need to be in.
Not usually, not usually. Mm-mm. Usually, I will. The one thing I want to say about letters of recommendation that I maybe didn't say in the presentation part is, we don't want insert name here is a great kid, right? We want this to be personal. We want this letter to come from somebody that loves your kid, that only can say amazing things about them. So that's one point I probably forgot to make. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in a certain format. If the university wants it in a specific format, they're going to let you know that. But you know, it's just a letter that the teacher, counselor, coach, whatever is going to write about their experience with your student, with your kid, right? And the most impactful ones are the ones where the teacher can tell a story, right? Like they were a student teacher for me, and this is what they did for me on that day. But again, it's the people that like your kids the most who can say really nice things about them.
Okay,
That's the
great.
most important thing. You're
I'll,
welcome.
I'll pile on something for the benefit of the other parents. Most of the schools seem to center on about 2 optional letters, but my advice to you would be to get your kid to ask for more than 2, because we had a couple of teachers back out on us that were pretty ridiculous, and it was very last minute as well.
Oh my God, I hate that so much. That's a really good point, Mr. Scott. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'd have a bench to be able to pull from. You know, maybe if and some universities are going to say, like I was helping a kid with the Georgetown application today. Georgetown wants a letter of recommendation only from a teacher from junior or senior year, only in the core classes, the English, the history, the math, etc. Some schools are going to be very specific about the types of letters of recommendation that they want. So I would encourage you strongly to get a core letter of recommendation from, you know, a core class in the junior year, and then, you know, have that as a backup just in case. But again, the letters of recommendation are going to depend on the colleges the students apply to. But that's a really good point, Mr. Scott. If, you know, if your universities require 2, then maybe you just get 4 yeses, because sometimes maybe the kid enters the teacher's email address incorrectly into the Common App and the teacher doesn't get the email. And so it's nice to have a backup just in case. That's a really good point. Thanks for that. What other questions do you have for me? How else can I support you today? I love all the questions. It's the most fun part. All right, going once.
Okay, one more that's it's very A&M specific, but I know a lot of people around here apply there. Once you're accepted, they're already kind of back to what you were saying, almost strong arming you into registering for this new student conference. But when I started clicking it almost seemed like you had to accept the
You do.
Yeah. So that's a wait a while
Yeah.
kind of thing. Okay.
Yes, it is. And they're going to use whatever levers they can pull. They're going to use whatever leverage they can to try to get you to commit early, because then that's one less kid that they have to try to get. You have until May 1 to make your decision. Nobody can force you to make a decision earlier than that, unless you go early decision, because you're committing at that point in time. But don't let them strong arm you. Don't let them, especially if your student is not sure. You know, they have time, and let's use that time. Okay. Thanks so much for your time tonight. I hope this was helpful. Thanks again for allowing us to work with you. We're so appreciative of that. Please don't ever hesitate to reach out with questions. Again, to Mr. Scott's point, if there's something that you're not even sure that we can help with, please reach out and ask anyway. Because if it's not something that we physically actually do with you, we will have support for you. So thanks so much, guys. So appreciate working with you guys, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye.